Hello and welcome to Military Mayday. We're pointing out some pieces on the chessboard. And I tell you, every day there's just some new pieces. We look like we might be having a drone wars and robot wars come to life. This is an interesting story, at least I found it to be. If you also find this type of thing interesting, hit the smash the like button, Hit subscribe to the channel. The Royal Navy could field the world's first aircraft carrier drone force. The United Kingdom's Royal Navy is set to experiment with operating unmanned aircraft from its aircraft carrier flight decks. Next month, the Royal Navy will conduct tests of the General Atomics Mojave drone from the aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales. This test could lead to the Mojave and other drone-likes being adopted by high-end navies, easing the skyrocketing cost of naval aviation. There she is there. According to the breaking news, the Royal Navy will conduct carrier MQ-9B flight tests next month from the HMS Prince of Wales. The Royal Navy stated that the service is exploring innovation for future carrier ops. General Atomics described the Mojave as offering early warning indicators to a carrier strike group, a likely reference to the drone's ability to scout out past horizons beyond the range of ship-based radars, detecting enemy threats. The Prince of Wales is the second of the Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carrier and will typically carry about 24 F-35Bs Lightning II fighter jets on deployment. For now, however, as the UK requires more qualified pilots for F-35Bs, the two carriers only carry 8 of the 5th generation fighters. The Mojave is a derivative of the MQ-9A Reaper flown by the U.S. Air Force, various NATO air forces, and Japan. The Mojave is designed for expeditionary warfare by military cargo aircraft. It's also short of takeoff and landing, short takeoff and landing, capable of allowing it to take off from a shortened airstrip. The last two features of the particular interest to the Royal Navy: a drone with detachable wings could be stored compactly in the carrier hangar, unpacked and ready for flight only when it's needed. The lack of aircraft catapults and arresting gear for the Queen Elizabeth class rules out the use of American aircraft carriers, and as of now, only fixed-wing aircraft can take off and land from the British carriers is the F-35B Lightning II. The lack of aircraft that can operate from small carriers is a problem not only for the UK but also Turkey, Italy, Australia, Spain, and Japan. Another issue likely under consideration is cost. The F-35B costs about $103 million per plane, a number that dates to 2021 that doesn't include inflation, and costs $42,000 an hour to fly. The UK has an account for not only a cost purchasing aircraft but also lifetime cost of the aircraft, which currently would amount to $269 million over 4,000 hours. The Mojave drone will probably cost as little as $32 million each. Cost of a 9 Reaper and $5,000 an hour to fly, for a total of $52 million over 4,000 hours. Like the UK carriers, the Japan aircraft system could also operate fixed-wing drones, and probably within 10 years. Yes, see, these aren't super aircraft carriers. America's got a bunch of them, and so they're wanting something that can take off and land, and that makes a lot of sense. The Royal Navy may eventually need Mojave drones to help fill its decks. In 2015, the UK stated it planned to purchase 138 F-35B fighter jets, but as of now it's committed to buying only 74. The two Royal Navy carriers can carry up to 60 jets each in emergencies. If the UK doesn't order more fighters, and it's not clear it will, there won't be enough to fully equip each carrier in wartime. A mixed force of both planes could be a plan B for the Royal Navy. Mojaves could act as pickets, providing persistent over-the-horizon surveillance, standing watch against incoming anti-ship missiles or a flotilla of high-speed enemy gunboats. An F-35B can perform the same mission, but would cost more than 8 times as much per flight hour. The Mojave or something like it could also eventually conduct other missions the F-35B is entirely unsuited for, like defense against small boats, swarms, and anti-submarine warfare. A drone like the Mojave wouldn't entirely replace the F-35s. The strong drones take low-end missions and don't require an expensive fifth-generation fighter. Other mid-sized navies will be watching next month's test carefully. I bet they will. Over the last century, the Royal Navy has enjoyed plenty of naval aviation's firsts, including the Argus, the world's first aircraft carrier. Now, more than 100 years later, it could be on the cusp of a new first, the first operational carrier-based drone force. Like, that's fucking kind of awesome, really, because, next is robots. It's like robot wars, just bashing robots. Crazy. Russia currently has 9,000 armored light armored on open parking areas. 8 or 9,000 light armored vehicles may be in Russia right now. These conclusions are based on satellite images. They were made in different periods of time. The classification of light armored vehicles is of different types. They also include about 3,680 combat vehicles for the infantry. So here's a list of them. Break down what base they are. Total 183, 651. If you look at all these numbers. The quantification, however, is restricted to equipment visibly parked in open spaces, as assessing the potential quantity housed in the garages proves virtually insurmountable. Yeah, so it's all open and outside stuff, so there's no telling what else. And Russia could be playing a game. Those could be wood, those could be cardboard, blow up things. I mean, just like the Americans done. You have to keep that in mind. That's kind of why I went over this article. That's the first thing I thought of. Thus, these approximations regarding the potential stockpile of armored vehicles may represent inaccuracies, as suggested by Austin analyst Hay via his Twitter page. The Marshed table, the author concurrently offers a tabulated presentation of his own computations depicting the possible remaining amount of BBM units that can be accommodated at each storage base. In the category labeled Others, which consolidates data from 530 armored vehicles, inclusive 3 infantry fighting vehicles, aggregated data from 10 unidentified storage bases, and encapsulated. This is probably translated from Russia or something. Based on the table, the residential BBM units deduced from satellite imagery appear to be the most abundant in these areas despite their smaller size. BPMs and other fighting vehicles remain in storage. Utilizing data from the Military Balance 2023 comparative metric, it indicates that commencement of the current year, the Russian military comprised approximately 11,000 armored units of diverse types. The infantry can pass 4,000, both be half a class submarine, 2,000, blah, 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 blah. While the exactitude of the aforementioned numerical values may not be flawless, they serve sufficiently in the reasoning behind the Russian military leadership's willingness to incur substantial losses, particularly evidence in the Advivka siege. Prima facie, such sizable reserves of armored units suggest the Russians' military confidence in enduring a similar operational tempo for 1 or 2 more years. So I guess what he's saying is, I think that's enough to keep up for a couple of years with Ukraine. I can only assume. As conveyed by EEE, it has been verified that the Inks, the leader of Estonia's Defense Forces Intelligence Division at the Russian Federation, has been supplied with 350,000 artillery rounds from North Korea. Given the Russian Federation consumption estimated roughly 10,000 units, this payload would be depleted in just over a month's time. One significant concern raises the potential of North Korea acting as a continual source of artillery ammunition for Russia and the unprecedented surrounding conditions of such an alliance. First of all, we own North Korea, so we're probably the ones supplying them because they want to keep this war going, the U.S. does. The prospect of it becoming a fixed partnership with additional shipments in the future indeed triggers apprehension. I mean, that's why nobody said anything. They haven't done nothing to North Korea. Because think about it, what we could do easily. We run and supply Kim Jong Un, and everybody seems to think that it's China that backs him, but no, it's America. We're the ones that give him all the money, the nuclear weapons, the secrets, all that shit. Okay, Estonia intelligence provided an additional unsettling report. The Russian Federation currently holds in its reserves 4 million artillery rounds, plenty of the year's worth low intensity conflict. It's critically important to vigilantly observe and analyze how this revelation impacts the perceived equilibrium of military capabilities in this region. Man, can you try to sound any fucking smarter? Who is this dude here? Boyko? Oh, yeah, it's probably been translated down into some computer software. Anyway, that's a lot of armored units. If I believe it or not, I don't know. I can see it, but those are, I don't know. Anyway, like, subscribe, toodaloo.